I would say that most people in this school don't know me very well, even the people that I've worked with for the past 10 years. I think one of the reasons, perhaps, is that I give off this New York City attitude, or it's an aloofness, or people think that I have a mightier-than-thou attitude. But interestingly enough, it turns out that I'm nothing more than very shy. But it doesn't affect my job. It doesn't affect my teaching, per se. Let me just backtrack. Undergrad, I went to the University of Pennsylvania, spent 4 years there. I got a degree in math, physics, and astronomy. I was 16 when I went to college, which is a little bit young, and part of that was because I skipped kindergarten, and when all of my friends in New York took this thing called two-year SP, and you got to go through the 3 years of middle school in only 2 years. Intellectually, I could handle it. So when I headed off to college, I was 16 years old and didn't turn 17 until I was there for about 4 or 5 months. Very socially awkward. Dating was definitely an issue. When I did typically date my first and second year of college, it was typically by going to the local high schools and finding girls that were my own age. And to them, that was wonderful also. They felt like they were dating a college guy, and I was really happy because I was dating people my own age. So that's how that worked. Although I will tend to sometimes brag about what I build, I don't do it very often. But I do brag about my math teaching. I've been a math teacher of high school and middle school for about 25 years. I view myself as this absolutely amazing math teacher. I take kids that hate mathematics in 9th grade algebra, and by the time that I'm done with them, next year they're doubling up in math. They're actually making an active choice to take 2 math classes after being so successful with me in algebra. And it's not that I'm an easy teacher. I'm a very difficult, rigorous teacher. But I love teaching. I call myself the sage on stage. So I like to entertain. I like to have fun with the kids. I like to tell stories. I like to tell jokes. And in between all of it, I'm teaching some high-level mathematics. There's some good philosophies out there that the way we communicate with one another is by telling stories. And the validity, the truth of any story is always subjective. So is it really important whether or not I was on an episode of CSI or not? Whether or not I did hurt my legs skydiving? Whether or not I was a Navy SEAL? I mean, all these things about my past, do they really affect the mathematics? They don't. Again, it's a teaching tool to engage students to make it more interesting. I mean, come on, math's pretty boring. So might as well spice it up a little bit sometimes. And it's never off the cuff. If you actually looked at my lesson plans, I actually have the jokes written into the lesson plans. So if you took my algebra course one year and failed it and had to take it the next year,
same joke.
You would find that the same jokes, the same lines, the same stories appear basically at the same lessons at the same time. I do try out new material every once in a while, and if it works, I'll add it to my repertoire. But again, it's like any performer. You've got a set piece, and I look at my job as even harder than a performer because not only do I need to keep you engaged and entertained, but I also have to make sure that I'm teaching you, that I'm getting knowledge across. So I'm an AFOL, A-F-O-L, an adult fan of Lego. And I've been playing with Lego since 1967, when I was 7 years old. Adult fans, at some point in their life, stop playing with Lego, usually around the age of 14 or 15, when other things take precedence, such as girls, cars, and sports. And then, sometime later on in their life, typically when they have their own kids, they get back into the hobby and start playing again. And that period of time, when you're not playing with Lego, that's called your dark ages. Well, for me, I never, ever stopped playing with Lego. I had Lego pieces in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. I had kits all over the place. Whenever people were coming over, they would constantly see me playing with Lego. So I don't say that I had a dark ages, I call it more of a dim ages. So back in 2005, I took the hobby a little bit more seriously. I started building a model of the house that I lived in. I then built a model of the Terminal Tower building, which is actually right now at CSU's Rhodes Library on permanent display. Then I built a model of the Taj Mahal, and I brought it to a Lego convention. Yes, there are Lego conventions. and I won a first place. And since then, over the past 7 years, I've attended about 16 or 17 conventions, and at every convention I've won a first place prize. And when you keep winning and people keep enjoying your work,
of course,
you just keep going at it. Love computer science. I can program in a number of different languages.
Really?
When I was younger, loved sports, loved football, basketball. I enjoy reading. I mean, I read about 2 or 3 books a month. That's pretty good. Mostly science fiction, historical books, that kind of genre. I'm actually writing a book. I started writing a book many years ago, and every 4 or 5 years I pick it up and write a couple more chapters. It's called Keep a Door Open and a Light On, and it's about a very interesting time of my life when I was in my mid-20s. I also have a love of nature, a love of hiking in the woods. And about 25 years ago, I took it upon myself to learn all the names of the trees and the wildflowers. So one of the things that I do when I take hikes, and also one of the reasons that nobody likes to go hiking with me, is that anytime I see some sort of plant or tree or whatever, I will stop and log it. So over the past 25 years, I've identified close to 5,000 different species of trees and wildflowers throughout the United States.
What's your favorite place in the world?
Where I grew up, New York City. I try to go back there about 2 or 3 times a year. I just love going there. I love bringing people there also. I'm a wonderful tour guide. Last time I was there, and I brought some friends up to the top of the Empire State Building, and I'm walking around showing them, this is the Flatiron Building, that's the Washington Square Park. And the next thing I realized is that I had like a group of 7 or 8 people that were following me because nobody knows what they're looking at when they're at the top of the Empire State Building, unless, of course, you're a native New Yorker. I do have one band in particular that I have listened to since the 70s, and we're talking about a group called the Grateful Dead. Okay, well, there's the time that, oh no, I can't tell that one. All right, well, I can't tell you that one.
Oh man, wow.
Well, you know, my philosophy of life, and one of the philosophies, is that things that occurred more than 25 years ago should have no bearing on your person anymore.
Okay.
Any of those stories clearly do not influence who I am or what I'm about. 2 kids, 2 boys. Ben is in 9th grade and Jason is in 7th grade. Ben is very articulate. He's sort of like a 15-year-old going on 25. He'll probably be a lawyer when he grows up.
Awesome. And
the younger one, Jason, who's 12, is an amazing drummer. One of the things that I do with Jason every 2nd or 3rd week on Fridays, him and I go to seedy nightclubs or bars where music is being played. It's totally inappropriate for him to be there for the most part, but I'll have a root beer or a ginger ale, and we just sit down and we listen to music together for about an hour or 2 until he gets, tired. It's a wonderful thing that him and I do together, and I'm letting him see all these different types of music that typically a 12-year-old wouldn't see. Right now, if you're asking me that, I will tell you that I have predicted snow days with 98% accuracy. Sure, the secret is that 93% of all statistics are made up on the spot. So people remember what they want to remember.
Okay.
So whenever I predict a snow day and it comes true, people remember those.
Yep.
People tend not to remember the snow days that I've predicted that have not come true. So I will give you my secret. It's called the Weather Channel. It's called looking at the weather and then changing the percentages on the outside as the Weather Channel changes theirs.
Say no more.
Okay, but that's a secret. Don't let anybody know. When I think back to my high school teachers, I do not remember what I scored on my 5th algebra test. What I do remember is whether or not they were kind. What I've noticed is that everybody remembers their algebra teacher. So 20 years from now, I want all the kids that I've had to look back when they say, who was your algebra teacher? They'll say right away, Mr. Gugick, he was a good teacher. He was kind, he was funny, he was enjoyable. Something positive about me. Because in the long run, most of the math that I'm teaching anyway is fairly useless.